The war didn't advance. It sank into the ground. And once it did, humanity went down with it. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to episode 3 of our World War I series. Today, in episode 3, we explore how the conflict turned into a brutal stalemate and the beginning of the famous trench warfare. World War I, Trenches, Where Humanity Broke. A world history series by the perfect professor. Episode 3, Part 1, Life Underground. The war did not move forward. It sank into the ground, into mud, into something less than human. When the war stopped moving, by late 1914, armies had collided and frozen. Every advance was met with fire. Every retreat felt like defeat. So soldiers dug. At first, it was temporary. Then it became permanent. The trenches were not a strategy. They were an admission of failure. A new world beneath the surface. Trenches stretched for hundreds of miles. Not neat lines, but jagged wounds across Europe.
Wood, mud,
rotting sandbags. This was not shelter. It was existence. Mud became the enemy. Rain turned trenches into graves. Men slept standing. Boots rotted on feet. Wounds never dried. Mud swallowed equipment. Mud swallowed bodies. Sometimes it swallowed the living. Rats, lice, and disease. Trenches were alive. With rats feeding on corpses. With lice burrowing into skin. With infections spreading silently. Disease killed as efficiently as bullets. And there was no escape. The smell that never left. Death has a smell. In the trenches, it lingered. Decaying bodies.
waste,
Stagnant water. Soldiers stopped noticing. The human mind adapts, even to horror. Days without meaning. Time dissolved underground. Days blurred together. Nights brought bombardment. Sleep came in fragments. Waiting became the dominant activity. Waiting to attack. Waiting to be attacked. Waiting to die. Why soldiers didn't revolt immediately? Because survival required obedience. Standing up meant death. Running meant death. Refusal meant punishment. The trench rewarded stillness. Humanity learned how to endure the unbearable. The silence between shells. Between explosions, there was silence. Heavy, unnatural. That silence was worse than noise, because it meant listening to thoughts,
to fear,
to the knowledge that this was not temporary. The first cracks. Soldiers wrote less, laughed less, spoke less. The war was not heroic. It was repetitive, and repetition breaks the mind. Professor's reflection. Progress stopped here. The trenches were not just military positions. They were psychological cages. This is where the modern world learned that technology could trap humanity, not free it. Episode 3, Part 2, No Man's Land and the Logic of Suicide. Between the trenches lay a strip of earth that did not belong to the living. They called it No Man's Land, a place designed to kill. No Man's Land was not empty. It was engineered. Barbed wire slowed movement. Craters trapped bodies. Open ground exposed everything. Anyone who entered became a target. Survival depended on luck, not skill. Why attacks still happened? Commanders knew the odds. They attacked anyway. Because standing still felt like failure. Because doing nothing felt worse than losing men. Movement was confused with progress. The mathematics of loss. An attack might cost thousands of lives. For meters of ground. Sometimes for nothing. But success was measured in maps, not people. Numbers replaced names. Going over the top. At dawn, whistles blew. Men climbed ladders. They walked, sometimes ran into gunfire. Not because they believed. Because orders existed. Disobedience felt worse than death. Why fear didn't stop them? Fear does not paralyze when death feels guaranteed. It simplifies. The choice was not life or death. It was how death would arrive. Bodies that could not be recovered. The wounded screamed, sometimes for days. No one could reach them.
Trying meant dying.
The living learned to ignore the dying. This broke something fundamental. Why this was not courage. This was not bravery. It was exhaustion. It was conditioning. It was obedience under inevitability. Heroism requires choice. The trenches removed it. The absurdity of orders. Some attacks were called off mid-charge. Some continued despite lost objectives. Communication lagged behind reality. Men died for orders already obsolete. When hope became dangerous, hope encouraged exposure. Exposure meant bullets. Veterans learned to suppress optimism. Pessimism became a survival skill. Professors' reflection, rational men, irrational systems. No man's land was not madness. It was logic applied inside a broken system. When systems value momentum over lives, death becomes routine. Episode 3, Part 3, Gas, Shell Shock, and the New Face of Horror. The trenches were already unbearable. Then, the war learned how to poison the air. When the air became a weapon. One morning, soldiers noticed a cloud.
Green.
Yellow. Slow-moving. At first, they were curious. Then they started choking. Gas did not explode. It crept. And once it reached the lungs, it did not let go. Panic was immediate. Men clawed at their throats. Eyes burned. Breathing became impossible. Some ran. Some collapsed. Some suffocated quietly. Gas did not care who was brave. Why gas changed everything. Bullets kill bodies. Gas attacked dignity. It blinded. It burned skin. It destroyed lungs slowly. Survivors coughed blood for years. The war followed them home. Masks that arrived too late. Gas masks were issued.
Crude.
Uncomfortable. Unreliable. Putting one on in time meant survival. Failing meant agony. Life depended on seconds. The war enters the mind. Not all wounds were visible. Constant shelling shattered nerves. Men shook uncontrollably. They went mute. They froze. Doctors called it shell shock. They did not understand it. When courage stopped working, shell shock was not cowardice. It was overload. The human brain cannot process endless threat. At some point, it breaks. The war demanded endurance beyond biology. Punished for breaking. Some officers believed shell shock was weakness. Men were punished.
Shamed.
Sometimes executed. The war blamed its victims for failing to survive it. Sleep became dangerous. Night brought bombardment. Sleep brought dreams worse than waking. Men learned to fear rest. Exhaustion became permanent. Why the old rules died here. Honor meant nothing against gas. Discipline meant nothing against trauma. The war had outgrown its moral language. New horror required new words. None existed yet. Professor's reflection, when innovation becomes cruel. World War I was not just destructive. It was inventive. It taught humanity how to suffer more efficiently. This is where modern warfare stopped pretending to be noble. Episode 3, Part 4, Machines, Mud, and the End of Illusions. When courage failed, leaders turned to machines. They believed technology would solve what humanity could not. They were wrong. Artillery, the true killer. Most soldiers did not die facing an enemy. They died never seeing one. Artillery ruled the battlefield. Shells fell day and night. Without warning. Without mercy. Men were buried alive. Blown apart. Erased. The trenches shook constantly. There was no safe moment. Death became statistical. Artillery did not target individuals. It targeted areas. Kill zones were calculated. Maps decided fate. Survival became a matter of geography, not skill. The endless bombardment. Shelling lasted for days, sometimes weeks. The ground churned into mud. Trees disappeared. Landmarks vanished. The landscape itself died. What remained was lunar. When tanks appeared, tanks arrived with promise.
They were meant to break stalemate.
Instead, they broke down.
Slow.
Unreliable. Vulnerable. They frightened soldiers but changed little. Hope arrived early. Reality followed immediately. Technology without wisdom. Machine guns stopped advances. Artillery flattened defenses. Gas terrorized lungs. Each invention escalated suffering. None ended the war. Progress did not save lives. It multiplied death. Mud as a weapon. Rain returned. Mud swallowed tanks. Trapped wounded men. Collapsed trenches. Some soldiers drowned without water. Nature joined the war. Why illusions finally died. By now, no one believed in glory. No one believed in quick victory. No one believed technology would rescue them. What remained was endurance.
And despair.
Orders continued anyway. Despite evidence, assaults continued. Because admitting failure meant changing strategy. Changing strategy meant admitting error. So leaders repeated mistakes. History is often stubborn. The human cost of mechanical thinking. War plans treated men like components. Replaceable. Predictable. Expendable. The trenches revealed the cost of this thinking. Human beings are not machines. Professor's reflection. Progress without ethics. World War I showed the danger of innovation without restraint. When machines outpace morality, suffering becomes efficient. This was not the future humanity imagined. Episode 3, Part 5, Survival, Brotherhood, and Emotional Numbness. To survive the trenches, soldiers had to lose something first. Feeling. Why numbness became a skill. Constant fear destroys the mind. So the mind adapts. Men stopped reacting to explosions. Stopped reacting to death. Stopped reacting to screams. This was not cruelty. It was self-preservation. Brotherhood replaced belief. Ideologies faded. Politics disappeared. What mattered was the man beside you. Not for victory. For survival. Brotherhood was not patriotic. It was practical. Dark humor as armor. Jokes became darker. Laughter became sharper. Humor mocked death before death could mock them. It was not disrespect. It was resistance. Routine as control. Men clung to routines. Cleaning weapons. Sharing food. Writing letters. Small habits created the illusion of order. Order kept panic away. Letters that lied. Letters home were censored. By officers.
By fear.
By love. Soldiers hid the truth. They did not want to infect home with horror. Silence became kindness. Why courage changed meaning. Courage was no longer charging forward. It was staying, holding position under shellfire, enduring another night, waking up again. Heroism became invisible. The unspoken agreements. Sometimes enemies paused. Unofficial truces. Shared silence. Mutual exhaustion. They understood each other better than their leaders did. Humanity survived in the cracks. The cost of caring. Caring meant loss. So soldiers cared less. Not because they wanted to, because the alternative was breaking. When death became background noise, bodies lay for days, sometimes weeks. The living stepped around them, not out of disrespect, out of necessity. The war trained people to normalize the unthinkable. Professor's reflection. Survival changes ethics. The trenches did not turn men into monsters.
They forced men to adapt.
And adaptation, under endless threat, always carries a cost. This is how humanity bends, not snaps. Episode 3, Part 6. When humanity finally broke. The trenches did not destroy armies. They destroyed limits. The breaking point was invisible. There was no single moment. No collapse everyone could see. Men simply stopped being the people they were. Something inside them went quiet. When endurance became damage. Survival demanded adaptation. Adaptation demanded sacrifice. Soldiers learned to function without hope, without fear, without expectation. This kept them alive. It also hollowed them out. The war that followed them home. Even those who survived did not escape. They returned with shaking hands, silent stares, sleepless nights. The war stayed inside them. There was no language for this yet. Only shame. Why the trenches changed warfare forever. After World War I, no one could pretend again. War was no longer glorious, no longer brief, no longer noble. It was mechanical, psychological, endless. The trenches rewrote the rules of conflict. What leaders finally understood. too late. Mass assault did not break defenses. Heroism did not overcome machines. Human courage had limits. Those limits were reached in the mud. The trench as a symbol. The trench became more than a battlefield. It became a warning of what happens when systems trap people. Technology outpaces ethics. Leaders demand endurance without end. This was humanity pushed past design. Why this was the true turning point. The war could still be won or lost. But something else was gone forever. Illusion. The belief that progress made us safer. The belief that intelligence prevented catastrophe. The trenches destroyed those myths. Professor's reflection. Breaking is not failure. Humanity did not fail in the trenches. It reached its biological and psychological limits. The failure was demanding more than humans could give. History must remember that distinction. Closing words for Episode 3. The war did not break humanity in one moment. It wore it down, day by day, shell by shell, night by night. And when the breaking finally happened, it was quiet. Before we end, I have a question. Can you imagine living in a cold, muddy trench for months? What do you think would be the hardest part of a soldier's life back then? Tell me in the comments. The trenches did not just change how wars were fought. They changed how humans understood war itself. After this, no one could pretend that courage was enough, or that technology meant progress, or that suffering had limits. Humanity endured the trenches, but it did not leave them unchanged. In the next episode, we confront the machines that made killing efficient, and the moment when humans became secondary to systems of war. We are now halfway through our series. If you are enjoying this deep dive into history, please like this video and subscribe. See you in the next part. Take care and see you soon.